Well, the problem I have with religious fundamentalists, and really more, I guess it's really theocrats, is that they want to impose their morality that comes from their religion on the rest of us, and I don't. But
morality, from your view, is going to be a preference, right? It's not morality; it's a preference. So morality without a foundation is going to reduce you to a preference.
Well, I have a foundation for my morality.
Which is what?
It's a humanist vision of what basically creates as little suffering as possible for as many people.
Okay, so you're like a consequentialist? Utilitarian?
I don't really...
okay.
I don't base my understanding of civil society on religion. And so we have a civil society. Okay. We have laws that we have decided as a society in a democratic way. And for some people, it's okay for it to be informed by their religion. That's okay.
Okay, perfect. So if tomorrow society comes together and we say, hey, trans folks don't deserve rights, you would be okay with that?
Greetings, family. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a thought-provoking topic: the inconsistencies of majority rule as the best moral framework. Majority rule is often hailed as a cornerstone of democracy, but is it truly the best way to determine what is right or wrong? Let's explore this together. First, let's clarify what we mean by majority rule. In a nutshell, it's the principle that the preferences of the majority should dictate the decision-making process. It sounds fair, right? But let's hit pause for a moment. Does the majority always represent what is morally right? History is full of instances where majority rule led to morally bankrupt outcomes. For example, consider the civil rights movements across the globe. In many cases, the majority supported segregation and discrimination against minority groups. Was that moral simply because it was popular? Of course not. Let's take a look at a conversation between Christian apologist Frank Turek and an atheist, in which the atheist presents the same argument.
He disagreed with morality. That wouldn't mean that morality is somehow subjective. Imagine this. Imagine the Nazis had won World War II, Matthew, and took over the entire world and convinced everybody that murdering Jews was a good thing. Would that make it a good thing?
Of course not.
No, of course not, right? Because there's a standard beyond us. If we have morality wrong, that's not God's fault. That's our fault. See, that would be more sociology rather than morality, how people behave. We're talking about a standard. Even if we disagree with the standard, it still exists.
But then you assert earlier in your presentation about science, how science doesn't say anything, scientists do. It's a similar issue here with morality, because sure, there might be a God who sets specific moral standards, but that ultimately means nothing if that's not how people view society.
Well, no, because people have their free will to say that we're not going to follow the moral code. For example, we were just talking about abortion. You know and I know that if you and I were right here and saw a live baby being dismembered, we would immediately understand intuitively that's wrong. However, we might suppress the truth about that because we want the convenience of not having a child in our lives. And we can suppress the truth. We all suppress the truth. It's not a matter of our cognition. It's a matter of our resistance to the implications of what the right thing is. We understand dismembering babies is wrong, but we may suppress that so we can have the convenience of getting someone out of our lives we don't want in our lives.
But again, sure, we may have that objective standard of morality set by a God, but that doesn't mean anything here on earth if that's not how we live and that's not how we view morality. That's still what's more relevant to us. For example, you bring up the Nazis repeatedly, how without a God setting morality, then we can't prove that the Nazis were evil. But still, we know Nazis were evil because we all collectively agree that what they did is bad. It's a standard of morality that exists because we agree that it exists.
So if what you just said, though, just contradicted what you said earlier, because you said if the Nazis had won and convinced everybody that murdering Jews was right, you admitted that would still be wrong, even if everyone collectively agreed it was right.
Sure, if everyone in that hypothetical world agreed it was right, I would still know it's wrong because I accept the societal standards and I understand.
Wait, Matt. No, the societal standard was murder Jews. That's the Nazi
I'm talking about the societal standards of morality within our life, within the real world.
Well, the Nazis were part of the real world. What do you mean?
It's clear that majority rule has its limitations. This is why morality requires something or someone above creation to set that standard, that someone being God. Most people will rebut by saying that God has a subjective sense of morality as well. However, this isn't the case because God's nature is goodness. He is the standard of goodness. He doesn't make one. Although the young student feels he's made a slam dunk, he fails to grasp the inconsistency of his moral compass. He fails to see that right and wrong in his worldview are subject to change based on how society feels, not on a morally absolute objective foundation. Sam Sedar makes a similar mistake. He tries to argue that Christian fundamentalism is wrong, and that the problem with theocracy is that many impose their own beliefs upon society. However you feel about Christian fundamentalism is irrelevant. The point is he fails to see the hypocrisy in his argument, as he also has a moral standard that he is trying to impose onto society, his standard being the philosophy of humanist secularism or majority rule, which he vaguely alludes to.
I don't agree with that example. Just because someone is a moral relativist does not mean that they have to allow themselves to be victimized by other people who happen to have a different set of ethics.
That's not the point.
That is the point.
No, it is
That's
not.
the example you use.
No, it is
I'm
not.
not going to let someone steal my bike because I think it's wrong. I don't care if they think it's right, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to go and say, well, you grew up in a culture that steals bikes as a sign of being a young man and breaking into manhood and being a warrior, and that's what you do as a tribal custom, and that's wrong, and I'm going to imprison you. No, I'm going to accept that as their culture and their set of ethics. Doesn't mean I'm going to be victimized.
That's not my point. My point is, if I believe that morality is relative, it does not matter whether I pull out my wallet, give him a $20 bill, or whether I pull out a knife and stick it in his back. And when I begin to understand that because morality is relative, it doesn't matter whether I give him $20 to get his dinner or whether I stick a knife in his gut, I begin to realize how absurd and meaningless life really is. And that's what the majority of my atheist friends are unwilling to grapple with. But that's what that woman was willing to grapple with. If morality is relative, it doesn't matter whether you're Adolf Hitler II or Mother Teresa II. It really doesn't matter. It's just an issue of what do you choose? And if you want to choose to be Adolf Hitler II, that's your choice. If you want to choose to be Mother Teresa II, that's your choice. It's all relative. And when you begin to grapple with that, you begin to realize how meaningless your life really is. And then you got to ask yourself, why continue to live? It's all meaningless.
Cliffe, from your own worldview, it wouldn't matter if someone was Adolf Hitler or if someone was Mahatma Gandhi, because they're both going to die when God comes and brings down the brimstone.
That is absolutely false.
How's Gandhi?
I, as a follower of Christ, look at Gandhi, and first point is, I respect him highly, because he understood that morality really is real. But he got his understanding that the caste system was wrong, not from the Vedas. He got it from the Sermon on the Mount. And I abhor what Adolf Hitler did. And I respect Gandhi highly. And I disrespect Hitler for what he did. And I don't know what Gandhi or Hitler decided about Jesus before they died. So I don't know whether Gandhi's going to be in heaven or hell. I don't know whether Hitler's going to be in heaven or hell.
Gandhi was a Hindu, and Gandhi's not going to be in your idea of heaven. Gandhi's not going to be there.
Gandhi was very familiar with the New Testament. He read the New Testament extensively, and before Gandhi was assassinated, I don't know what he decided about Jesus. And neither do you. Neither does anybody. So I don't know whether Gandhi's going to be in heaven or hell. I don't have the faintest idea.
Doesn't that conversion make up for a lifetime of immoral actions?
Absolutely.
Well, when Jesus was bleeding and dying on the cross, two thieves were hung on either side of him. First thief turned to him and said, "Come on, miracle boy from Nazareth, little miracle dust, get us off these crosses, and then we'll believe in you." Second criminal turns to the first criminal and says, "You fool, we bleed and die here because we deserve it. But this Jesus, he's the innocent, holy, pure Son of God." And that second criminal turns to Jesus and says, "Remember me when you come into your kingdom." And Jesus doesn't turn to him and say, "Get lost, scumball, you've lived a horrible life." No. Jesus says, "I tell you the truth, today you'll be with me in paradise." So yes, if on your deathbed you genuinely are sorry for your wrongdoing and you sincerely put your faith in Christ, he'll accept you. Clearly. Good. I like this guy. I'm waiting. Okay? Here's my problem. Hey man, I'd love to be your friend 40 years from now. But I'm genuine. I'd really like to be your friend 40 years from now. And I should join the other hypocrites, guys. And if you think you can treat God that way, you're a flaming phony. The same way I'm a phony if I look this guy in his face and say, "You know, but I'd really like to be your friend 40 years from now." You have good reason to question my sincerity. Yes, God, I'd love to get serious with you 40 years from now. Well, why don't you join the other hypocrites?
Cliffe and Frank make very good and compelling arguments about the flaws of subjective morality as well as moral relativism. These standards are not ironclad and cannot be trusted. They are not perfect and are based upon a weak and ever-changing foundation. This is why seeking the truth about where we come from and ultimately forming a relationship with our Creator is so imperative. Family, let's not delay getting right with God because tomorrow is not promised to us, and God is no one's fool. He can see the sincerity of our hearts. Please make an effort to reach out to those who don't know the Lord, and please implore them to be open-minded enough to seek God. Speak to them, share this video with them, do your best to encourage them to form a relationship with God. Family, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more insightful discussions. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.